Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Mary Whitfield adjusted her napkin for the third time, watching her younger sister Mara across the candlelit table. The restaurant buzzed with Austin's evening crowd, but their family table felt like its own small universe of forced smiles and careful conversation. "Another round of wine?" Russell asked, already signaling the waiter. Mary's husband had that particular gleam in his eyes that meant he was enjoying himself too much. His charm worked on everyone else, but Mary had learned to see past it years ago. "I'm good," Mary said, touching her barely touched glass. She preferred to stay sharp during family dinners. Someone had to. "Oh, come on, it's your birthday," Mara laughed, her voice carrying that musical quality that had always made people lean in closer. "Live a little." Mary watched her sister's face. Something was different tonight. Mara kept touching her stomach and glancing at Russell when she thought no one was looking. Mary's training in financial compliance had taught her to notice patterns, inconsistencies, things that didn't add up. Tonight, everything about Mara screamed secret. "How's work going, sweetheart?" Elaine Whitfield asked Mary, cutting into her lamb. Their mother had the practical air of someone who had raised two very different daughters and learned to navigate the space between them. "Busy. Found some interesting discrepancies in a client's accounts last week." Mary stabbed her asparagus. "People think they're clever, but numbers don't lie." "Unlike people," Kendall Hart muttered from beside her. Mary's best friend had agreed to come tonight for moral support, though she'd made it clear she'd rather be anywhere else. "What's that supposed to mean?" Victor Whitfield asked. Mary's father always tried to smooth over tension before it could take root. "Nothing, Dad," Mary said quickly. "Kendall's just tired." Russell laughed and reached across the table to squeeze Mara's hand. "We're all tired, aren't we, Mara?" The gesture lasted a second too long. Mary caught it, filed it away with all the other small moments that had been adding up over the past few months. The late nights Russell claimed were work calls, the new cologne, the way he looked at his phone like it held secrets. "Actually," Mara said, her voice suddenly bright and breathless, "I have something to share with everyone." The table went quiet. Even Trevor Miles, Russell's friend who had been telling a story about his latest dating disaster, stopped mid-sentence. Mara stood up, one hand on her stomach, the other reaching for her wine glass. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes sparkling. "I wanted to wait until we were all together." Mary felt something cold settle in her chest. The way Russell was looking at Mara, the way Mara was looking at Russell. The pieces clicked into place with mathematical precision. "I'm pregnant," Mara announced, her voice carrying across their corner of the restaurant. The silence stretched for exactly 3 heartbeats. Then Victor started to smile. Elaine gasped, and Trevor choked on his drink. "That's wonderful, honey," Elaine said, but her voice sounded strained. "Who's the father?" Mara's smile faltered for just a moment. Then she looked directly at Russell, who had gone pale under his tan. "Russell is," Mara said. Mary watched the shock ripple around the table. Kendall's fork clattered against her plate. Victor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Elaine went rigid in her chair, but Mary felt nothing except a strange sense of satisfaction. Finally, proof. Finally, the truth laid bare for everyone to see. Russell was stammering something about this being impossible, about how this couldn't be happening. Mara was trying to explain, her words tumbling over each other about love and accidents and how these things just happen. Mary reached for her wine glass and stood up. "Congratulations," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Everyone turned to look at her. Mara's face was triumphant, expecting tears or screaming or some kind of dramatic breakdown. Mary smiled. "I was worried about you both after Russell's fertility test came back last month. Sterile, remember? So now we all know it isn't his." The temperature at the table plummeted. Mara's smile died completely. Russell's face went from pale to gray. What? Mara whispered. The fertility test, Mary repeated, taking a sip of wine. Russell and I have been trying for a baby for 2 years. His sperm count is 0. Has been for months, apparently. So either you've performed a medical miracle, or you've been sleeping with someone else. The silence was deafening. Mary could hear her own heartbeat, could smell the sudden sweat breaking out on Russell's forehead. That's not. Russell started. Possible. Mary finished. I have the lab results in my purse, if anyone wants to see them. Elaine slammed her wine glass down so hard the stem cracked. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Mara Elizabeth Whitfield, she said, her voice deadly quiet. What have you done? Mara was shaking now, her face crumpling. It's not what you think. We didn't mean for this to happen. But it did happen, Mary said. She was still standing, still smiling, savoring the moment. Multiple times, I'm guessing. In my house. In my bed. Mary, please, Russell said, reaching for her hand. She stepped back. Don't touch me. This is a family dinner, Victor said weakly. Maybe we should discuss this privately. No, Mary said. I think we're past privacy, don't you? She looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. Kendall was grinning like Christmas morning. Trevor looked sick. Her parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes, and Russell and Mara looked exactly like what they were, cheaters caught in the act. I hope you'll both be very happy, Mary said, raising her glass again. You deserve each other. She drained her wine in one long swallow and set the glass down with a sharp clink. The parking lot felt like a war zone. 3 separate arguments were happening simultaneously, voices rising and falling in waves of anger and accusations. You knew, Elaine was saying to Victor, jabbing her finger at his chest. You knew something was wrong and you said nothing. I didn't know anything, Victor protested. How could I know this? Near Russell's car, Trevor was backing away from his friend like Russell had a contagious disease. I can't believe you did this, Trevor said. Your wife, man. Your wife's sister. It just happened, Russell said desperately. It wasn't planned. Bullshit, Trevor shot back. Nothing just happens for months. Mary stood beside her own car, watching the chaos unfold. Kendall was beside her, practically vibrating with excitement. That was amazing, Kendall whispered. Did you see Mara's face? I thought she was going to faint. She expected me to break down, Mary said quietly. She wanted me to cry and scream and make a scene so she could comfort Russell and play the victim. Instead, you eviscerated them both with surgical precision, Kendall said admiringly. Remind me never to cross you. Mara appeared at Mary's elbow, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mary, please, let me explain. Mary turned to face her sister. Up close, Mara looked younger than her 29 years, like the little girl who used to steal Mary's toys and then cry when she got caught. Explain what? Mary asked. That you've been sleeping with my husband? That you're pregnant with another man's child and tried to pin it on Russell? Which part needs explaining? I love him, Mara said desperately. I know it's wrong, but I love him, and he loves me too. Mary studied her sister's face. Even now, even caught in the biggest lie of her life, Mara still believed she was the victim of her own poor choices. Love, Mary repeated. Is that what you call it? We tried to stop, Mara continued. We knew it was wrong, but we couldn't help ourselves. She didn't trip, Dad, Mary said loudly, cutting through Victor's attempts to mediate between his wife and daughter. She climbed into my bed on purpose. Victor flinched like she'd slapped him. Mary, sweetheart, people make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Mary said. Mistakes are accidents. This was a choice. Multiple choices made over months. Russell finally approached them, looking like a man walking to his execution. Mary, we need to talk. No, Mary said simply. We don't. You can't just walk away from this, Russell said. We're married. Are we? Mary asked. Because I'm pretty sure marriage involves fidelity and honesty and not impregnating your wife's sister. The baby isn't mine, Russell said quickly. You proved that tonight. I know, Mary said, but the affair is yours, and that's enough. She looked between Russell and Mara, these two people who had shared her family dinners and holiday mornings, who had pretended to care about her while betraying her in the worst possible way. You wanted me broken, she said quietly, but her voice carried to everyone in the parking lot. You thought this would destroy me, but you made one crucial error. What's that? Mara whispered. Mary smiled, and for the first time all evening, it was genuine. You underestimated me. She turned to Kendall. Come on, let's go get drinks. I feel like celebrating. As they walked away, Mary could hear the arguments starting up again behind them, but she didn't look back. She had work to do. The bar Kendall chose was dark and loud, exactly what they needed. Mary sat in a corner booth, watching the ice melt in her whiskey, while Kendall recounted the dinner scene for the third time. The look on Mara's face when you mentioned the fertility test, Kendall said, gesturing wildly. Priceless. How long have you known? About Russell being sterile? 2 months. About the affair? Longer. Mary took a sip of whiskey, feeling the burn chase away the cold that had settled in her chest. The alcohol was starting to loosen something inside her, something that had been wound tight for years. Tell me, Kendall said. Mary stared into her glass, seeing memories instead of amber liquid. You know how my parents always handled Mara and me growing up? The pretty one and the responsible one, Kendall said. Exactly. Mara was the princess. I was the caretaker. Mary's voice was flat, matter-of-fact. When Mara broke something, I got blamed for not watching her carefully enough. When she lied about her grades, I got lectured about being a better role model. When she stole money from Mom's purse, I got grounded for not stopping her. The memories came flooding back. 8-year-old Mara cutting up Mary's favorite dress because she wanted to make a costume. 12-year-old Mara kissing Mary's boyfriend at the school dance while Mary was in the bathroom. 16-year-old Mara crashing Mary's car and letting Mary take the blame because she was already in trouble with their parents. Every time I tried to defend myself, Mom would say, Keep the peace, Mary. You're the older one. You should know better. Mary's laugh was bitter. I learned early that protecting myself meant being the bad guy. So I stopped trying. Until tonight, Kendall said. Until tonight, Mary agreed. But I've been preparing for this moment longer than you know. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to a folder labeled Russell Work. Inside were screenshots of credit card statements, restaurant charges, hotel receipts, dates and times that painted a clear picture of an affair in progress. 3 months ago, I noticed charges at restaurants we'd never been to, Mary said. Always for 2 people, always on days when Russell said he was working late. Then hotel charges, short stays always the same place. You didn't confront him? No. Mary's voice was steady. I'm a compliance officer. I investigate financial irregularities for a living. I know how to build a case. So you encouraged him to take the fertility test. I told him I was worried something was wrong since we weren't getting pregnant. He was so eager to prove it wasn't his fault. Mary's smile was sharp. He never thought to ask why I suddenly wanted a baby after years of saying I wasn't ready. The truth was, Mary had stopped wanting children with Russell months ago. She'd stopped wanting most things with Russell. The man she'd married, charming, ambitious, seemingly devoted, had revealed himself over 5 years to be something else entirely. Someone who put her down in small ways, who made her feel stupid for being careful with money, who acted like her success was somehow diminishing his own. The worst part, Mary said, is that I think I fell out of love with him before I even caught him cheating. The affair was just proof of what I already knew, which is that he never really loved me. He loved what I could do for him, the stability, the financial security, the way I made his life easier. Mary finished her whiskey, and when he got bored with that, he went looking for excitement. With your sister. Of course, with Mara. She's everything I'm not. Impulsive, needy, dramatic. She makes men feel like heroes for taking care of her. Mary's voice turned hard, and she's always wanted everything I had. Kendall was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? Mary pulled out her phone again and opened a new folder. This one was labeled Divorce Preparation. Inside were photos of documents, account numbers, property records. The foundation of a financial empire that Russell had always assumed he was part of. I'm going to bury them both, Mary said simply. Mary. No. Mary's voice cut through Kendall's concern. I'm done being the understanding one. I'm done keeping the peace. They wanted to destroy my life for their own happiness. Fine. Let's see how they like it when the tables turn. She stood up, leaving money on the table for their drinks. They think I'm weak because I didn't scream and cry tonight. They think I'll forgive them eventually because that's what I always do. And will you? Mary looked at her best friend, this person who had watched her bend and compromise and sacrifice for other people's comfort for years. Never, she said. This is war now, and I intend to win. Mary's condo felt different when she returned home alone. The furniture that had been carefully chosen to blend Russell's taste with hers now looked like evidence of a life that had been slowly slipping away without her noticing. She poured herself a glass of wine and spread her laptop, phone, and a stack of documents across the dining room table. If Russell had taught her anything over 5 years of marriage, it was that information was power, and Mary had been gathering information for months. The first folder on her laptop contained Russell's financial indiscretions, not just the affair expenses, but deeper problems she'd uncovered during her investigation. Gambling debts he'd hidden from her, credit cards in his name that she'd never seen statements for, a pattern of financial recklessness that painted a picture of a man living beyond his means. Mary sipped her wine and scrolled through bank records. Russell made good money as a marketing director, but he spent it like he made twice as much. The BMW lease he'd insisted on, the expensive clothes, the watch that cost more than most people's rent. The second folder was more personal. Screenshots of text messages she'd found on Russell's phone during one of his long showers. The conversations with Mara were exactly what she'd expected, declarations of love mixed with guilt, promises to tell Mary when the time was right, complaints about having to sneak around. But the messages with Trevor were more interesting. Russell had been lying to his best friend too, claiming he was thinking about leaving Mary anyway, that the marriage was already over, trying to make himself the victim of his own choices. Mary's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know this is weird, but I thought you should know. Russell asked me to lie for him about where he was last Tuesday. I said no. I'm sorry about tonight. Trevor. Mary stared at the message. Trevor Miles had been Russell's friend since college, had been the best man at their wedding. If he was reaching out to her, Russell had burned more bridges than just their marriage. She typed back, "Thank you for telling me. Can we meet tomorrow? I think there are things you should know too." The response came immediately. Yes. Coffee? 10 a.m. at Central Market on Lamar. Mary smiled. Russell was about to discover that loyalty was a two-way street, and he'd been traveling it alone. Her phone rang. Kendall's name flashed on the screen. "Please tell me you're not sitting there planning someone's murder," Kendall said without preamble. "Nothing so dramatic," Mary said. "Just doing some financial planning." "That sounds ominous coming from you." "What kind of financial planning?" Mary scrolled through another folder of documents. "The kind that ensures I walk away from this divorce with everything I'm entitled to, which is most of it, since Russell's name isn't on the deed to this place or the investment accounts. Wait, what? I bought this condo before we got married. The down payment came from my inheritance from Grandma Rose. Russell insisted we get married fast. Didn't want to wait for a prenup. Mary's smile was sharp. He assumed that meant he'd automatically get half of everything. He was wrong. Mary, you devious genius. I prefer thorough. Russell always teased me about being too careful with money, too conservative with investments. Turns out being careful pays off when your husband is cheating with your sister. Mary closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair. Tomorrow she would meet with Trevor and get more pieces of the puzzle. Then she would call her lawyer and start the legal process. But tonight she would savor the silence of her home without Russell's presence filling it. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. The knock on Mary's door came at 9 a.m. Too early for anyone with good intentions. Mary looked through the peephole and saw Mara standing in the hallway, holding a coffee tray and wearing the expression of someone who had spent all night rehearsing an apology. Mary opened the door, but didn't invite her sister inside. I brought coffee, Mara said, holding up the tray like a peace offering. Your favorite, that vanilla latte with extra foam. How thoughtful, Mary said, not moving from the doorway. Can I come in? Please? We need to talk. Mary considered making Mara have this conversation in the hallway where the neighbors could hear, but decided that would be giving her sister too much ammunition for later complaints about public humiliation. 5 minutes, Mary said, stepping aside. Mara walked into the living room and set the coffee tray on the table, looking around the space like she was seeing it for the first time. Which was probably true, since she and Russell had likely done most of their sneaking around at hotels or at Mara's apartment. I practiced this speech all night, Mara said, turning to face Mary. But now that I'm here, I don't know where to start. How about with the truth? Mary suggested, crossing her arms. I'm sorry, Mara said quickly. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Mary waited. Mara always needed time to work up to her real point. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, Mara continued. But I need you to understand that we didn't plan this. It just happened. Affairs don't just happen, Mara. They're a series of choices. How many choices did you make? To answer his calls? To meet him for coffee? To kiss him? To sleep with him? How many times did you choose this? Mara's face crumpled slightly, but Mary recognized the expression. It was the same look Mara had worn as a child when she got caught stealing. Sorry, she was in trouble, not sorry for what she'd done. Russell was unhappy, Mara said. He told me you two had been growing apart for years, that you didn't understand him anymore. Mary said, so this is my fault. No, that's not what I meant. Mara twisted her hands together. It's just, you never made him feel appreciated. You're so focused on work and money and practical things. Russell needs someone who sees his dreams, who believes in him. Someone like you. Yes, Mara said, her voice getting stronger. Someone like me. I love him, Mary. Really love him. Not just what he can do for me or how he makes me look. I love who he is. Mary almost laughed. You love who he pretends to be. Trust me, I've seen behind the mask. You never gave him a chance to be himself with you. Mara shot back, and there it was the real Mara emerging from behind the apologetic facade. You turned him into some boring version of himself. All budgets and 5-year plans and sensible investments. I turned him into an adult. You turned him into someone he didn't want to be. Mara was warming up now, her voice rising. He told me how you shot down his business ideas, how you made him feel stupid for wanting to take risks. Those business ideas would have bankrupted us. Those risks would have cost us our home. Not everything is about money. No, Mary said quietly. But when you're married to someone who spends money like water and has secret gambling debts, money becomes important pretty quickly. Mara's face went pale. What are you talking about? Russell didn't tell you about the debts? The credit cards? The money he owes to some very unpleasant people. Mary smiled. How interesting. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about the poker games. Ask him where the $12,000 went last month. Ask him why Trevor stopped lending him money. Mary watched the doubt creep into her sister's eyes. For all of Mara's talk about love and understanding, she clearly didn't know Russell as well as she thought she did. Even if that's true, Mara said, but her voice was weaker now. It doesn't change how we feel about each other. No, Mary agreed. I'm sure it doesn't. I'm also sure you'll feel differently when you realize he can't support you and a baby on what's left of his salary after he pays me alimony. Alimony? Half his income for the next 5 years. Standard in Texas when there's proven infidelity. Mary's voice was conversational, like she was discussing the weather. Of course, that's assuming he keeps his job. Marketing directors who get arrested for gambling debts tend to have short career spans. Mara was staring at her now, the coffee forgotten. You're really going to destroy him. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just stop protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. This isn't you, Mara said desperately. You're not cruel. You're the responsible one, remember? The one who keeps the peace. Mary looked at her sister, really looked at her. At 29, Mara was still waiting for someone else to solve her problems, still believing that her wants should automatically become everyone else's priorities. You're right, Mary said. This isn't me. The old me would have swallowed this betrayal and found a way to forgive you both. The old me would have been more concerned with keeping the family together than protecting herself. What changed? Mary walked to the window and looked down at the street below. I realized that keeping the peace isn't my job anymore. And frankly, I'm tired of being the responsible one while everyone else gets to be selfish. So you'll punish us forever. I won't punish you at all, Mary said, turning back to her sister. I'll just stop enabling you. No more family loans when you can't make rent. No more covering for you when you disappoint mom and dad. No more pretending your choices don't have consequences. Mara's face was white now. You can't cut me off. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the first time you kissed my husband. The words hung in the air between them. Mara opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Russell was right about you, she said finally. You are cold. No wonder he came looking for warmth somewhere else. Mary smiled. You should probably leave now. And Mara, you might want to ask your boyfriend about his financial situation before you start planning your future together. I think you'll find it very educational. After Mara left, Mary sat down at her laptop and made a phone call. Trevor? It's Mary. Are you free for that coffee now? I think we have a lot to discuss. Mary's lawyer, Patricia Chin, was exactly the kind of woman Mary had hoped to become when she grew up sharp, uncompromising, and completely immune to manipulation. They sat in Patricia's downtown office, a stack of documents between them that represented the end of Mary's marriage. Your husband is an idiot, Patricia said bluntly, flipping through bank statements. Did he really think you wouldn't notice the gambling debts? Russell has always assumed I don't pay attention to anything that doesn't directly affect me, Mary said. He underestimated my professional training. Financial compliance work pays off in divorce court, Patricia agreed. These records show a pattern of deception going back 2 years. Hidden debts, secret accounts, money moved without your knowledge. Mary nodded. And the affair? With your sister, documented through hotel receipts and text messages, carrying on for months. Patricia's smile was sharp. In Texas, adultery affects property division and spousal support. Russell is about to learn that actions have consequences. What can I expect? You keep the condo, it's in your name only, purchased before marriage with separate property funds. You keep your investment accounts again, separate property. Russell keeps his debts and his guilt. And alimony. He'll owe you, not the other way around. His infidelity combined with the financial deception means the court will not look favorably on his behavior. Patricia leaned back in her chair. I've seen men in better positions walk away with nothing. Russell should prepare for a very expensive lesson in fidelity. Mary felt a sense of satisfaction settle over her like a warm blanket. How long will this take? With this much evidence? 6 months, maybe less. He can fight it, but he'll just rack up legal fees he can't afford. Good. Patricia studied Mary's face. You're different from most of my clients. Usually there's more anger, more emotion. I was angry, Mary said, for about 5 minutes. Then I realized anger was a waste of energy I could better spend on solutions. After leaving the lawyer's office, Mary drove to Mara's apartment complex. Her sister lived in a trendy area near downtown, the kind of place that looked expensive but was actually just overpriced. Mary had helped with the security deposit 2 years ago, back when she still believed family obligations went both ways. Mara answered the door in pajamas at 3 in the afternoon, her eyes red and swollen. Did you think about what I said? Mary asked without preamble. I called Russell, Mara said. Asked him about the debts. And he said you were exaggerating, that it was just a few bad investments. Mary pulled out her phone and scrolled to a screenshot. $15,000 at Lucky Star Casino, $8,000 at Riverside Poker Club, $4,000 to someone named Mickey, who doesn't seem to have a last name. Mara stared at the screen. Where did you get this? Russell's credit card statements, the ones he has mailed to his office, so I won't see them. Mary put her phone away. He also owes $6,000 to Trevor, which is why Trevor isn't talking to him anymore. You're lying. Call Trevor yourself. Ask him why he stopped being Russell's friend. Mary watched the doubt and fear play across her sister's face. Mara had always been financially dependent on other people, first their parents, then a series of boyfriends, and lately Mary herself. The idea of being tied to someone who was not just broke, but actively in debt was clearly terrifying. Even if that's true, Mara said, we'll figure it out. People work through financial problems. Some people do. Russell doesn't. He just finds new ways to hide his spending. Mary's voice was matter-of-fact. How do you think he paid for all those hotel rooms? The dinners? The gifts he probably bought you? Mara's face went white. He said he got a bonus. He got a credit card, one with a 22% interest rate and a balance that's almost maxed out. Mary turned to leave, then looked back at her sister. You wanted him, Mara. You fought for him. You won. Congratulations. I hope you're prepared for everything that comes with him. Mary, wait. But Mary was already walking away. She had other business to attend to. Her next stop was Mara's workplace, a boutique clothing store called Bella that catered to women with more money than sense. Mary had been there once, for a birthday party Mara had guilted her into attending. The manager, a thin woman with severe black hair, looked up when Mary walked in. Can I help you? I hope so. I'm Mary Whitfield, Mara Whitfield's sister. I was hoping to speak with you privately about a family matter. The woman's expression shifted to concern. Is Mara all right? That's what I wanted to discuss with you. Is there somewhere we could talk? They went to a small office in the back of the store. Mary sat down across from the manager and tried to look appropriately distressed. I'm afraid my sister has been going through some personal problems lately, Mary said. She's become involved with a married man, my husband, actually, and I'm concerned about how it might be affecting her work. The manager's eyes widened. Oh, my goodness. She's been very emotional, very distracted, making poor decisions. I'm worried she might be having some kind of breakdown. Mary paused. Has she seemed different to you lately? Well, she has been taking a lot of personal calls during work hours, and she left early twice last week without permission. I was afraid of that. The thing is, I think she might need some time away from work to get her life sorted out. But she's too proud to ask for it herself. Mary leaned forward, lowering her voice. Between you and me, I think she's having some kind of crisis. The affair, the lies she's been telling, it's not like her. I'm worried about her mental state. The manager was nodding now, clearly buying into Mary's concerned sister act. I just thought you should know, Mary continued, in case her behavior at work becomes problematic. Sometimes when people are in crisis, they make choices that affect everyone around them. Thank you for telling me, the manager said. We'll keep an eye on the situation. Mary left the store feeling satisfied. Mara's job was probably safer now, but any future mistakes would be viewed through the lens of instability and poor judgment. And knowing Mara, there would definitely be future mistakes. Her phone buzzed as she reached her car. A text from Russell. We need to talk. This has gone far enough. Mary typed back. My lawyer will contact yours. The response came immediately. I don't have a lawyer. Mary smiled and put her phone away. Of course he didn't. Russell had always assumed his charm would be enough to get him out of any trouble he created. He was about to learn otherwise. Mary spent 3 days planning the dinner party. She sent carefully worded invitations to a dozen people, friends, colleagues, a few neighbors. People who knew both her and Russell, who had attended their wedding, who had always seemed to like them as a couple. The invitation read, Join Russell and me for a celebration of new beginnings. Dinner at 7 p.m., Saturday. Come prepared for surprises. Kendall arrived early to help set up, bringing wine and moral support in equal measure. You're sure about this? Kendall asked, watching Mary test the projector she'd borrowed from work. They wanted to humiliate me in front of my family, Mary said, adjusting the focus. Turnabout is fair play. What if they don't come? They'll come. Russell thinks I'm planning some kind of reconciliation dinner. Mara thinks I'm finally ready to forgive them both and move forward as a family. And what do they think the projector is for? Mary smiled. I told them I wanted to show pictures from our wedding, a reminder of happier times. The guests started arriving at 7. Mary had chosen the group, carefully people who would spread the story, but also people whose opinions Russell and Mara cared about. Professional colleagues who could affect Russell's career. Social contacts who could make Mara's life uncomfortable. Russell arrived with Mara, both of them looking nervous but hopeful. Russell had brought flowers. Mara had worn a new dress. They clearly thought this dinner was going to end with tearful forgiveness and family reconciliation. Mary played the part perfectly. She greeted them warmly, accepted the flowers with a smile, complimented Mara's dress. She introduced them to the other guests like nothing had changed, like they were still one big happy family. Dinner was perfect. Mary had ordered catering from the restaurant where Russell had proposed to her, a detail that made him smile nostalgically. The conversation flowed, the wine was excellent, and everyone seemed to be having a wonderful time. This is lovely, Mary, said Janet Morrison, one of Russell's colleagues. It's so nice to see you all together. Family is everything, Mary agreed, raising her glass, even when things get complicated. Russell reached over and squeezed her hand. Mary's always been the bigger person, he said to the table. More forgiving than I deserve. Much more, Mary agreed. After dessert, Mary stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she said. As some of you know, Russell and I have been going through a difficult time lately, and I thought it was important to share some things with our closest friends. She moved to the projector and turned it on. I originally planned to show pictures from our wedding, but I decided to share something more recent instead. The first image appeared on the wall, a screenshot of a text message from Russell to Mara. I can't stop thinking about last night. Mary worked late again. So we have the house to ourselves tomorrow. Gasps echoed around the room. Russell shot to his feet, his face going pale. Mary, what are you doing? Sharing, Mary said calmly, clicking to the next slide. This one showed a hotel receipt dated 3 weeks ago, charged to Russell's credit card. "Stop this," Mara whispered, but her voice carried in the suddenly silent room. Click. Another text message. "I bought you something special. Can't wait to see you wear it. Or take it off you." Click. A photo taken through a restaurant window. Russell and Mara at a table for two, his hand on her face, her lips against his palm. "Jesus Christ, Russell," someone muttered. Click. Bank statements showing charges at jewelry stores, lingerie shops, expensive restaurants. A paper trail of an affair funded with marital assets. "That's enough," Russell shouted, lunging for the projector. Mary stepped aside smoothly. "Actually, we're just getting started." Click, click, click. More messages, more receipts, more evidence of a betrayal that had been going on for months, while Mary played the oblivious wife. The room was dead silent except for the sound of Mara crying and Russell's heavy breathing. Mary turned off the projector and faced her audience. "I wanted you all to see this because Russell and Mara think they're victims of their own love story. They think what they did was romantic, inevitable, beyond their control." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "But I think you can see that this wasn't love. This was a calculated decision to betray someone who trusted them, to lie to someone who supported them, to steal from someone who loved them." Russell was shaking with rage. "You vindictive bitch. You planned this whole thing." "Yes," Mary said calmly. "I did. Just like you planned your affair. Just like you planned to make me look like a fool." "This is insane," Mara sobbed. "We made a mistake. People make mistakes." Mary turned to her sister, this person who had shared her childhood and her family and her trust, and felt nothing but contempt. "You're right," Mary said. "People do make mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Hundreds of choices made over months, while you sat at my dinner table and pretended to care about my happiness." She raised her wine glass one final time. "So here's to Russell and Mara. May they find everything they deserve in each other." The silence stretched until Trevor Miles stood up. "I think I should go," he said quietly. "Me too," said Janet Morrison, avoiding Russell's eyes point one by one. The guests filed out, leaving Russell and Mara alone with Mary and Kendall in the wreckage of their social lives. "You'll regret this," Russell said, his voice shaking. "No," Mary said. "I really won't." "This was cruel," Mara whispered. "Was it?" Mary asked. "Because I thought it was honest. For the first time in months, everyone in this room knew exactly who you both really are." Russell grabbed Mara's hand and pulled her toward the door. "This isn't over," he said. Mary smiled. "Actually, Russell, it is. But you just haven't figured that out yet." The phone calls started 2 days after the dinner party. First from Mara, then from Russell, then from their father trying to mediate. Mary let them all go to voicemail while she sat in her lawyer's office, signing divorce papers. "Your husband's attorney finally called," Patricia said, sliding a document across the desk. "He wants to negotiate." "From what position?" Mary asked. "He has no assets, mounting debts, and documented evidence of adultery. Desperation makes people creative. He's claiming emotional distress, alleging that you've been mentally abusive throughout the marriage." Mary almost laughed. "That's rich. It won't hold up in court, but it might buy him some sympathy with a judge. We should be prepared for him to fight dirty." Mary signed the papers with steady hands. After 5 years of marriage, her signature looked strange next to the word petitioner instead of wife. "There's something else," Patricia said. "Your sister has been calling my office. She wants to speak with you." "About what?" "She says it's about the baby." Mary looked up from the documents. "What about the baby?" "She wouldn't tell my secretary, but she sounded desperate." That evening, Mary came home to find Mara sitting in the hallway outside her apartment, looking like she'd been crying for hours. "How did you get into the building?" Mary asked. "Mrs. Chun let me in. She remembers me from Christmas. Mara stood up slowly, one hand pressed to her back. Please, I need to talk to you. Mary unlocked her door, but didn't invite Mara inside. You have 5 minutes. I lost my job, Mara said. They said I was too distracted, too unreliable. They gave me 2 weeks' notice. Mary felt a flicker of satisfaction. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. You're the one who made it happen. I didn't make you have an affair with my husband. I didn't make you lie to your boss about where you were during work hours. I didn't make you take personal calls on company time. You told them I was unstable, Mara accused. I told them I was concerned about your judgment, which I was. Mara's face crumpled. I'm pregnant and unemployed. Russell can barely pay his own bills, much less support a baby. I don't know what I'm going to do. Have you considered talking to the actual father? What? Mary stepped closer to her sister. The baby, Mara. Who's the real father? Because we both know it's not Russell. Mara's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Russell had a vasectomy 3 years ago. He never told me, but it's in his medical records. His sperm count isn't just low, it's 0. Has been for years. The lie was perfect, delivered with just the right mix of matter-of-fact certainty and sisterly concern. Mary watched it land like a physical blow. That's impossible, Mara whispered. Is it? When was the last time you slept with someone other than Russell? Mara's hands were shaking now. I need to sit down. Who was it, Mara? One of your co-workers? Someone from the bar you go to with your friends? A dating app? Stop it. Does he know about the baby? Does he know you've been passing it off as someone else's? You're lying, Mara said, but her voice was weak. Russell would have told me. Would he? He didn't tell you about the gambling debts. He didn't tell you about the other credit cards. He didn't tell you that he's been borrowing money from loan sharks. Mary's voice was calm, clinical. What makes you think he'd tell you about something that would make him look less like a man? Mara sank down onto the floor, her back against the wall. I can't. I don't know what to do. Here's what you're going to do, Mary said. You're going to figure out who the real father is. You're going to get a paternity test. And you're going to stop expecting other people to solve your problems. I need help, Mara whispered. Then ask someone who cares. You're my sister. No, Mary said firmly. I was your sister. But you gave that up when you decided to destroy my marriage for your own entertainment. I never meant to hurt you. Mary knelt down so she was at eye level with Mara. You meant exactly to hurt me. You've been trying to take things away from me since we were children. You wanted my husband, and you took him. You wanted my life, and you tried to steal it. The only thing you didn't plan for was me fighting back. What happened to forgiveness? What happened to family? I forgave you for cutting up my prom dress. I forgave you for kissing my boyfriend in high school. I forgave you for wrecking my car and letting me take the blame. Mary's voice was steady, implacable. I forgave you for 29 years of selfish, destructive behavior. But this, sleeping with my husband, getting pregnant and trying to make it my problem, this is where forgiveness ends. Mara was crying again, hard sobs that shook her whole body. I don't have anyone else. Then you should have thought of that before you betrayed the one person who always had your back. Mary stood up and looked down at her sister, this person who had shared her childhood and her DNA but had never shared her values or her loyalty. The door is behind you, Mary said. Use it. The DNA test results arrived on a Thursday. Mary wasn't supposed to see them. She'd arranged for them to be sent directly to Russell, but Trevor had agreed to let her know what they revealed. His phone call came at lunchtime. You were right, he said without preamble. The kid isn't his. Mary felt a surge of vindication, so strong it was almost dizzying. How did he take it? Like a man whose world just collapsed. He called me screaming about how you set him up, how you somehow faked the results. Did you tell him that's impossible? I told him a lot of things, including that I'm done being his friend. Trevor's voice was tired. I've known Russell for 15 years, Mary. I thought I knew what kind of man he was. We all did. He wants to see you. Says he needs to explain. There's nothing to explain. He cheated on me with my sister and got caught. The rest is just details. But Russell showed up at her office anyway, looking like he'd slept in his clothes for a week. Mary's assistant tried to turn him away, but Mary waved her off. It's fine, Jennifer. He can have 10 minutes. Russell collapsed into the chair across from her desk, looking older than his 35 years. You destroyed everything, he said. I exposed everything. There's a difference. The baby isn't even mine. I know. I've known all along. Russell stared at her. You knew. I knew you couldn't father children. I've known for months. Then why didn't you tell me? Mary leaned back in her chair and studied her husband's face. He looked genuinely confused, like he couldn't understand why she hadn't saved him from his own choices. Because you needed to learn that actions have consequences, she said. You spent months lying to me, spending our money on another woman, planning a future that didn't include me. You made me feel like I was going crazy, questioning my own instincts. I was going to tell you about Mara. When? After the baby was born? After you'd figured out how to make it my fault somehow. Russell ran his hands through his hair. I never meant for it to go this far. What did you mean, Russell? What was the plan? Were you going to leave me for Mara? Were you going to keep both of us? Were you going to string me along until you decided what you wanted? I don't know, he said miserably. I didn't have a plan. That's the problem. You never have a plan. You just do whatever feels good in the moment and expect other people to clean up the mess. Mary's voice was matter-of-fact, almost gentle. It was the tone she might use to explain a complicated financial concept to a client. The gambling debts, Russell. The credit cards. The money you borrowed from Trevor and God knows who else. When were you planning to tell me about that? I was working on it. By borrowing more money. By lying to more people. By destroying more relationships. Russell's face crumpled. I lost everything. My wife, my best friend, my job. You lost your job. They found out about the gambling. Someone saw me at the casino during work hours and reported it to HR. Russell laughed bitterly. Apparently, marketing directors are supposed to be trustworthy. Mary felt a moment of something that might have been pity, but it passed quickly. I'm sorry you're suffering, she said, but I'm not sorry you're facing consequences. What am I supposed to do now? The question hung in the air between them. Russell was looking at her like she might have an answer, like she might still be willing to solve his problems for him. I don't know, Mary said. That's not my job anymore. You hate me. Mary considered this. No, I don't hate you. Hating you would require caring about you, and I stopped caring months ago. Before you caught me cheating. Long before. I think I stopped caring the first time you made me feel stupid for wanting to save money. Or maybe it was when you told your mother that I was the reason we weren't having kids yet. Or when you forgot to invite me to your company party because you thought I'd be boring. Russell was staring at her like she was speaking a foreign language. You remember all that. I remember everything, Russell. Every small cruelty. Every casual dismissal. Every time you made me feel like I was lucky you put up with me instead of the other way around. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant all of it. The cheating was just the logical next step. Mary stood up and walked to the window. Below, people were walking to lunch meetings and coffee dates, living their normal lives in a world that hadn't collapsed around them. I used to think marriage was about forgiveness, she said. About working through problems together. But you know what I learned? Some problems aren't meant to be worked through. Some betrayals are too big to forgive. Some people aren't worth the effort it takes to love them. When she turned around, Russell was crying. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are," Mary said. "But sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't give me back the years I wasted on you. Sorry doesn't erase the humiliation of finding out my husband was sleeping with my sister." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Mary said. "I want nothing from you. I want you to sign the divorce papers, sell whatever you need to sell to pay your debts, and disappear from my life completely. And Mara isn't my problem anymore. She's yours now. I hope you're both very happy together." Russell stood up slowly, like an old man with arthritis. "I really did love you once," he said. Mary looked at him, this man she'd shared a bed with for 5 years, who had held her when she cried about her grandmother's death, who had promised to love and cherish her until death did them part. "Maybe you did," she said, "but it wasn't enough." The final family dinner took place 6 months later at their parents' house. Mary arrived alone by choice, wearing a new dress and a confidence that felt like armor. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks earlier. Russell had signed everything without fighting, probably because his lawyer had explained exactly how badly he would lose if it went to trial. Mara had moved back in with their parents after being evicted from her apartment, the baby due any day now. "You look good," Elaine said, hugging her daughter at the door. "Happy." "I am happy," Mary said, and meant it. The dining room felt smaller with just 4 people instead of the usual crowd. Victor was carving a roast that looked bigger than necessary, and Mara was sitting at the far end of the table, heavily pregnant and pointedly not looking at Mary. "How's work?" Victor asked, passing Mary the potatoes. "Good. I got promoted last month. Senior Compliance Director." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Elaine said. "You've worked so hard for it." They ate in relative silence for a few minutes. Mary could feel Mara watching her, waiting for something: forgiveness, acknowledgement, some sign that Mary was ready to pretend everything was normal again. "The baby's due next week," Mara said finally. "Congratulations," Mary said politely. "It's a girl." "How nice." Mara's face flushed. "Is that all you're going to say?" Mary looked at her sister across the table. 6 months ago, Mara had been glowing with the thrill of stolen love and secret drama. Now she looked tired and defeated, like someone who had won a prize only to discover it was worthless. "What would you like me to say?" "I'm your sister. This is your niece. You're the woman who slept with my husband. The baby is a stranger." "Mary," Victor said gently, "maybe it's time to—" "To what, Dad? Forgive and forget? Pretend it never happened? Move on for the sake of family harmony?" Mary set down her fork and looked around the table at these 3 people who had shaped her childhood and her understanding of love and loyalty. "I spent 33 years prioritizing other people's comfort over my own truth," she said. "I'm done with that." "Families forgive each other," Mara said desperately. "That's what families do." "Some things are unforgivable. I made a mistake." "Stop calling it a mistake," Mary said sharply. "Mistakes are accidents. You planned this. You chose this. You wanted to take something that was mine, and you took it." "I was in love." "No, you were selfish, just like you've always been." Elaine cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should talk about something else." "Actually," Mary said, "I think we should talk about this, because I want everyone to understand why I'm done pretending Mara and I have a relationship worth salvaging." She turned to face her sister directly. "You didn't just sleep with Russell. You sat at my dinner table for months, knowing what you were doing. You came to my birthday parties. You borrowed money from me. You listened to me worry about my marriage while you were actively destroying it. I felt guilty, not guilty enough to stop. I tried to stop seeing him. When? Show me one text message where you tried to end it. Show me one moment where you chose your sister over your own wants." Mara was crying now, but Mary felt no sympathy. She had cried plenty of tears over this betrayal. She was done wasting any more. You want forgiveness. Mary continued. Here's the truth. Forgiveness is a gift. And I don't give gifts to people who have proven they'll use them to hurt me. She's having a baby, Victor said quietly. She needs family support. Then she should have thought of that before she destroyed her family. Mary stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the backyard where she and Mara had played as children. So many memories of sisterhood and shared secrets and childhood loyalty. All of it poisoned now by adult choices and adult consequences. I'm not the villain here, she said without turning around. I'm not the one who broke promises or betrayed trust or chose selfish desires over family bonds. I'm just the one who refuses to pretend it doesn't matter. She turned back to the table. Mara will always be my biological sister, but she's not my family anymore. Family requires mutual respect and loyalty. She forfeited that. So that's it. Mara asked through her tears. You're cutting me off forever. I'm protecting myself from further harm. Mary walked back to the table and kissed her mother's cheek. Thank you for dinner, Mom. I'm going to head home. Mary, wait, Elaine said, standing up. I want to say something. The room went quiet. Elaine looked at her two daughters, one defiant, one defeated, and seemed to be choosing her words carefully. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this situation, she said, about family and forgiveness and what we owe each other. She walked over to Mary and took her hands. I'm proud of you. Mom. Mara started. No, Elaine said firmly. Let me finish. I'm proud of Mary for refusing to accept betrayal in the name of keeping peace. I'm proud of her for knowing her own worth and demanding that others respect it. She looked at Mara. And I'm disappointed in you, not for making a mistake, but for refusing to take real responsibility for it, for expecting forgiveness without earning it. Elaine turned back to Mary. You don't owe anyone your pain. You don't owe anyone access to your life. You get to decide who deserves your trust and your love. Mary felt tears prick her eyes for the first time in months. Thank you. To Mary, Elaine said, raising her wine glass, for teaching us all that strength doesn't come from staying silent. Mary smiled and raised her own glass. Around the table, Victor reluctantly joined the toast. Mara sat with her hands in her lap, staring at her plate. To new beginnings, Mary said as she drove home through the Austin evening. Mary felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Complete peace with her own choices. She had lost a marriage and a sister, but she had gained something more valuable, the knowledge that she would never again sacrifice her own worth for someone else's comfort. Her phone buzzed with a text from Kendall. How did it go? Mary typed back, perfectly. The future stretched ahead of her, uncertain but entirely her own. For the first time in her adult life, Mary Whitfield belonged completely to herself, and that felt like victory.